T. Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T. Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Miss T.
Can't wait for you to meet Miss T. She is the T in T.
And welcome back to Sweet Tea Time. And as you can see, I got my friend with me today. I want to introduce all of you to my very good friend, Super Kev. Now listen, we got some really cool stuff to talk with you about today, but really talk to each other. Like we do this kind of exchange and we kind of get lost in it, but we're inviting you along for the ride. We want to make sure that you and we understand how important it is for people to have places and spaces that they feel like they belong in and can innovate in. And so, Kevin, please tell the universe who you are and why it's so important that you are here today.
Gosh, that's
a big intro.
that's a huge ask. That's a huge ask. So my name is Kevin Sherrod. I'm a practice area leader for art and culture at Gensler, Los Angeles. I'm also an adjunct assistant professor at the University of Southern California. I'm here because placemaking in space is paramount to who I am, particularly as an educator, but also as a practitioner in this space.
So when you say practitioner, I want you to just boil it all the way down and give us the base of what is that to you, and then what is that to us, people that are not in, like, okay, so just so you guys know, he builds some of the most fantastic spaces, from retail spaces to sports arenas. So when he says placemaking and space making, I mean, it's ginormous. It's not like a little thing like welcome to my house and let's have cupcakes. It's not like that. It's like way bigger than that. So you have to help us understand, just generally globally, or just boil it down in a way that we can, consume this with you so that we can stay in it with you. When you say placemaking, tell us what you mean by that.
So placemaking is exactly what it sounds like. It's really just the ability to create a space that is intended for the community in which it sits. So ultimately, my big interest is making sure that people understand that who they are and where they're from deserves the space and the places that allow them to ultimately reach their potential.
Okay, so So now we're getting into our why. So just a handful of years ago, just so that you guys are all in the loop, we met. So we're both on the same Forbes list. And we met at an event where Forbes the Culture pulled a group of us together, and we went to do some economic work. And so the goal was to take a look at, different communities that have been, robbed of their places and their spaces, and to how can we together figure out how to restructure, rebuild, and reform. And so we met on this journey. Now, we didn't meet in the beginning. We actually kind of connected like during the landing part where, we're probably two of the most sober people in the room. And so I was like, okay, he looks like he could have a good conversation with me. And so I went and talked to him. I introduced myself, and we ended up having, the conversation for me that changed everything. So this is during a period of my career and my organization where I knew I needed to make a move, but I didn't know how to do it or when to do it. And so anyhow, in having conversation with him, I started to share my dream for a building. And then he was finishing all of my sentences. So something that was resident in me for 20 years, in a minute's time, he could see what I had been imagining for quite some time. And he was one of the very few people that could actually do that. And so as I'm telling him, this is what I want, he goes on to tell me, well, this is what I think I can do. I know I can do. And the reason I know I can do it is because I just did it for Miss Debbie Allen, my freaking dance hero. He literally just built out her creative place-making space, and they were finishing it up. And then we met, and he says, and we were actually looking for another meaningful project. So if you ever find that you want to have a building or you get a building, you give me a call. And guess what happened 3 weeks later? I was presented with the opportunity to buy the building that we are now sitting in and calling our innovation factory. And really, he's a catalyst for all of that. So, fast forward, we're doing all sorts of amazing things as a result. But really, that's how we came together. We came together with that shared idea that the importance of this in specific kinds of communities. And then he's got so much evidence around that. And then he trains young people to do it. So he really is, a dynamic human. And I want you to tell us a bit more, yes, about what you do now, but where did Kevin come from to bring you to this place of knowing of this important kind of stuff? And how did you get into architecture?
That's a very, loaded question, but it's also the right question.
Sure.
So I'm actually from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there's a high school that was called Architecture and Design Charter High School. Now, this wasn't a school that I chose on my own volition, but it was something that my grandmother saw as essential to my growth and development. And so I did go to Architecture and Design Charter High School. And so I actually don't own a diploma and or a degree that does not have the word or the language architecture in it. And so from early on, there was this kind of appetite to really understand what creative expression was. And even well before I understood what a creative economy might look like, I recognized that creative expression was not just a nice to have, but it was in fact paramount to us understanding ourselves, but ultimately unlocking the deep-seated potential of us individually. Right. And that ultimately would lead to a kind of collective aspiration of who and what we are, that we would be able to demonstrate. And so what I learned was, particularly in high school, is that people think creative expression is whimsical, but it's not.
Yeah.
It actually is about kind of these kind of deep-seated nuances of kind of like cultural export from the generations into you.
Sure.
And we are actually in a point, in a moment in time, where we are now starting to be able to give language to the things that we just understood as normalcy.
Yeah.
And so now where I was at was architecture and design.
Sure.
And I started to unmask and start to uncover those things early in school.
Yeah.
And so my kind of nighttime job, I was moonlighting in high school as a professional dancer. And so
What kind of dancer? You gotta
it
tell
was jazz,
Okay,
modern,
okay,
tap,
okay.
ballet. And so there was kind of a technical piece to everything that I was doing. But
Yeah.
what I realized that architecture became really important to me because it was quite literally taking the physical manifestation of dancing
Yeah.
and allowing that to curate an expression through a spatial proposal.
Yeah.
And so there is this duality between what it means to choreograph.
Sure.
Choreographing is not just the physical movement, but it's the understanding of the forces around you.
Yeah.
And being able to organize them in a way that accelerates people's understanding of themselves, but also who they can be.
Yeah,
and what
that's,
they can
and
be.
that's through them occupying a space that's conducive for them to have limitless expression.
That's correct. So traditionally, what happens, particularly in spaces that I'm familiar with, is that we inherit space. So
Yeah.
these buildings were
Come
made, and we
on.
don't
And
actually
they weren't
build
necessarily
them.
made for what we
Exactly.
needed to become.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so what we see is
Just
that
take what
we
you-
inherit and
yeah.
we beautify it.
Yeah.
But what happens when we start to create spaces that are uniquely, specifically
Yeah.
positioned and made?
For our
our-
innovation and
There it
creativity.
is.
That's
That's the
so
crux.
key. So, okay. So I know we're of something similar.
Sure.
We're of communities where we do take hand-me-downs. We do
Sure.
take the second. We do take the used. We do take the broken down, fix it up, make it pretty, do our best to make
Sure.
it work for who we are because it's what we have access to,
100%.
or because it's what we're being given, or because it's what we can afford.
That-
So then what
Definitely.
happens when that's changed? What happens when you're on the beginnings or the planning phases of, okay, what do you need a space for, but what will your children's children need this space for?
I think in a word, authorship.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about making sure that the authorship belongs to the people.
Yeah.
And so where I find myself in a really incredible place. One is I call myself a graphic stenographer. I
Okay.
make plain people's visions, thoughts.
That's so
right?
true.
I take the idea of the community sentiment or the communal sentiment
Sure.
and create a physical proposal for that.
Sure.
And so what that really means is that people then are invested because it's their project. It's
Yeah.
not my project. It
Yeah.
has little to do with me outside of the fact that I am telling them exactly what
Yeah.
they've said
Yeah.
in the
In
manifestation of a
walls and
building.
dimensions.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And so the other thing that means is that they're enabled then through the entire process. I'm constantly teaching the node points that you have to hit in order
Sure.
for this project to come to fruition.
But you know what though? You said that you're constantly teaching, and I think it's important to note
Sure.
that I've been in this experience with you,
Mhm.
and what you've constantly taught me is I've been conditioned to work within the boundaries of affordability.
Yeah.
I've been conditioned to work within the
Yes.
boundaries of accessibility
Yes.
based on this
That's correct.
area.
That's
But
correct.
what you've done is you forced my thinking into like space,
Yeah.
outer space, or solar,
Mm.
or stratospheric change or difference or possibility.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes if when you show up for me that
Mhm.
way, what that's done is it's caused me to rethink what you can do with wood, what you can do with
Yes.
stucco, what you can do with nails, and what you can do with a very small bit of
Yes.
space by way of authoring something that's one, true to me, true to my
Mhm.
culture, true to the people that I service,
Mhm.
but also true to the future of where I know I'm assigned to get this body of people to by way of success and victory.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think what I'm typically getting at is that we're taught to think and look at the box from the inside.
Yeah, yeah.
What I'm asking people to do is actually not think about the inside of the box, but to hold the box and move it around for themselves.
Yeah, that's so true.
The difference is being inside something and looking
Sure,
up at it
sure.
and only understanding it
That
as it
yeah.
exists from that perspective,
Yeah.
through that lens.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is keep all of that understanding,
Yeah.
but then hold the box in your hand and look at it from a different perspective.
And then look around
And then see what's in
like
its
what's
proximity.
orbiting around it.
Exactly.
And it changes not just the potential of the individual to create.
That.
I think it changes how you see what you can create and the bigness of it. Because again, you can stay small as long as you're inside this thing, looking
Yes.
around this thing. But once you get outside of this thing and do this with this thing, and
Yes.
then look around this thing and see all these other things going around it, it really does reshape you, the creative, but it also reshapes how you can get creative.
Yes.
With what's just around you.
And the reason why it does that is because when you're looking up at the box, you're not the value proposition. If you're holding the box, you are the value proposition.
My God, say that again.
Because when you're looking up at the box, you're not the value proposition. But when you hold the box, you create the value proposition for the box.
I gotta stop you. So really, this thing really is truly your placemaking, space making. It's about the individual valuing themselves in the process.
There it
So
is.
you're increasing the value, or you're
There it
at
is.
least guiding the person to
There it is.
value themselves and their creativity and how
There
it's
it is.
expressed in placemaking and space building.
There it is. Whenever we think about people worth celebrating, right?
Sure,
If
sure.
we think about the Romans, for instance, we have artifacts that talk about who they were. It talks about how they lived. We see aqueduct systems. We still study them to this day,
Yeah.
right? We talk about the French. We talk about Greek. We talk about, the Acropolis. We talk
Yeah.
about all these things.
Yeah.
These are artifacts of who they were.
Yeah.
But when we come to ourselves, we're the artifacts of who we are,
Yeah.
who we were.
Yeah.
We don't see them. It's not a part of our consciousness.
Sure.
And so when we don't have that level of consciousness, it undermines our value proposition for who we are and the importance of the space that we hold.
But what do you do with the thought that, okay, so somebody, for me, when I set out to build a space where kids can create, particularly, let's say in dance, that's my core shtick, but media, arts, all the things. And I was always groomed to believe that in order for someone to learn dance, it has to be in a dance studio.
Yes.
And so, I learned, I wasn't groomed as a dancer that
Sure.
way. And so it was a very defeating idea and a very devaluing idea that the only way that I could become is if I went into this box with mirrors and bars and learned to dance like this.
Yeah.
If you really want to become valuable
Yeah.
as a dancer. To me, it was very defeating. And because economically, I could never subscribe to it. So that meant to T that one, your creativity, your expression of this creativity, we don't value because you don't have these elements and it's not being done in this box.
Yeah.
But saying something to me like that, that is the absolute thing that is happening
Yeah.
when you gift people a space that doesn't have walls, ceilings, or
Sure.
floors in a sense,
Sure.
and they can just kind of be themselves and create the thing.
That's it.
It absolutely changes not how they're valued, how they value themselves.
That's correct.
And so, okay, so now tie that into space
Sure.
and belonging.
Sure. I think so. Many times we think that space and belonging are confined to the building.
Sure.
One of the examples I want to bring up is, something that Miss Allen is known very well for, which is the movie
Pause.
Fame.
That's Debbie Allen. That's my dance hero. I love her, look up to her. He knows her. I got to meet her because of this guy. Oh, so he's talking about the Debbie Allen.
And so the team calls her Miss Allen, and so there's a scene in Fame, and it's world famous. The question I have is, were they inside a building? No, they weren't. They were actually dancing on the streets around cars.
Exactly.
That's placemaking.
Exactly.
That thematic reference point is who and what we are. We take what we have, where we are, and how we're accustomed to seeing
Yeah.
and doing and
Yeah.
understanding, and make a cultural response.
But you also teach people how to value that. Like, it
That's
is
correct.
valuable that you're just at a park hooping
That's
and the
correct.
hoop don't got no net and
That's
the
correct.
grass is growing through the cracks. Is it the most optimum of conditions? No, but it's your conditions and it's
Yes.
still valuable
Yes.
for who you are called or
Yes.
created to become.
Think
Right?
about it this way. So when I was growing up, we played curveball and we played basketball, and our basketball hoops were just a fraction of an actual basketball court size, because we had to bend the steel ourselves
Yeah.
to create a ball for the ball to go through. What that meant was I was a better shot than most of my peers, because out of my lack
Yeah.
became the true abundance of who I became.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
And so what we're
sense.
talking about is,
But you got to say it again.
out of my
your
lack is where my abundance became,
Come on.
right?
Kevin.
And it's because I had things that I would consider less than.
Yeah.
But it was actually the refiner's fire that ultimately allowed me to
Yeah.
have a surplus to be able to share with folks.
Yeah. Come on.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
And so
does.
in terms of building, the same thing is true.
Sure.
I'm less interested in creating something that looks good.
Sure.
I'm interested in creating something that's attuned to a smartphone,
Sure.
where it has any number of functions that you can depend on and use it any number of ways that
Yeah.
you need to be successful.
So it's not constricted to just
it is.
having it be this one thing that works this one way.
The only constraint is your imagination.
Okay. Okay.
It's about dynamism at its core.
Okay.
It's about, how do we work with people who typically have made so much out of $1?
Yeah.
How do you get them, when they have $2, to make
What
50?
happens when they have $2?
That's always the question for me. Architecturally, that's the puzzle. That's the problem.
Yeah.
When this person is looking at $1 and they're making so much happen, and then you give them another one, but they have the same mentality of having $1.
Unless you push them, unless you inspire them like you have me. I'm again so accustomed to being having to
Yes.
be so frugal. What happens when your frugality is like this?
There it is.
Then again, there's that value piece.
Yes.
You can value yourself different. You can also value what you create differently.
Sure.
But it opens the door of potential possibility and growth potential.
Yes.
So again, if you look at what we're doing today, and I'm
Yes.
saying me for sure, but you and me together on our different projects, if you look at what we started with
Yes.
versus what you walk the halls of today, that's because I started with $1.
Yes.
But then I got $2.
That's correct.
And now stretching this $2 into 44,000 square feet
Yeah.
of innovation space
Yes.
for hundreds of thousands of people, whether it's in person or virtually.
There it is.
That's not because someone gave me $80 million. It's
correct.
because of through the lack,
Yeah.
abundance came. But it's not that someone gave me this massive chunk of resources. It was just double the base
Yes.
of what I had.
Yes.
Just double. And it took everything
Yes.
to this.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the process of transformation that happens when someone sees you.
Mhm.
Because that's what you did. You saw my
Mm-hmm.
dream. And then 2, when you bring along your piece, which matches their piece, but causes something dynamic to happen.
So what I would say to that, I think there's 2 things. One, when someone sees you, when someone understands the idea, it lets you know that you're not losing your mind.
You're
That's number
crazy.
1. That's number 1.
I want to do this thing. Like,
But the second thing it does, hearing someone say back what you've just said,
yeah,
there's a clarity in it.
yeah,
A clarity that you can't get on your own. And the reason why I say that is because when someone surmises what you have taken 20 years to come to the conclusion of, it lets you know that you have an idea worth
Yeah.
moving forward.
yeah.
Because they can wrap their mind around it.
yeah,
And if someone
They
else can
see
wrap
it
their mind
too.
around it,
Yeah,
you can sell it.
yeah.
Not sell it
Ooh.
financially, but
But
you
sell it
can
financially.
plant the seeds
Yeah.
for it to grow into
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
And so for me, what it boils down to is not just about selling the idea. What it also boils down to is really just understanding that it is possible.
mm-hmm. So you're saying selling the idea, and I keep getting stuck there here.
Sure.
Is that for you the same as sharing the vision and people get it?
That's correct. So you have people who will grab hold of the vision based on your language.
Yeah,
You have people that will grab onto the vision based on their ability to see what you're thinking
sure,
about.
sure.
You have people who will grab onto the vision based on whoever else sees that vision.
Yeah,
And so the idea is you start in a place where you feel comfortable to all 3 of those mechanisms are now true,
yeah,
where everyone can see the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
And so the idea is that, and I find myself here particularly when I'm working in places where this is not the norm, where people don't have the vision in a way that other people can see it. I become more of a financial advisor at time. I become more of someone who helps them fundraise at time. I become, alongside people and just encouragement, because the number one thing I tell people is building is hard.
It is.
It is hard.
It is.
And you can go to any number of people and people will tell you, like, I have no idea what it is to build.
Yeah.
I leased this place.
Yeah. Oh.
Right? I don't own it. And also when I do own it, I don't know how to change what I got.
What you got. Yeah.
And so it's challenging. But the reason why it's challenging is because there's a different value proposition you're asked to deal with.
Sure.
You're asked to take something that you have that you didn't have before that is precious in your sight, and you're asked to reimagine it while it's still precious to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're thinking like, I don't want to lose. And that to me is the mentality from before.
Sure.
And we have to always work at it.
Sure.
It's something that I struggle with even today in my own profession.
Yeah.
Which is like, man, do I really belong here? But it's something that you have to remind yourself of the value proposition, right?
Yeah.
And you just have
And the
to,
value that you're bringing to the proposition.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because there are doors that you can open that nobody else can
And
open.
there you go. So, okay. So with that being said, why don't you share some of the projects just so people know that, we didn't meet at, Burger King and decided to have a conversation today.
Sure.
Like, tell them some of the things that you've expressed this through.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'll start with Miss Allen's project. We, like the team and I always say team because it is always a village. It's always a
100%,
community of
100%.
like-minded individuals
Yep.
that really have to be committed to the why. We have a similar why that
Yep.
allows us to get to some end. But we did the Debbie Allen Dance Academy, and then I think that's a really great testament to what it ultimately means to use creativity that was deep-seated in me.
And take a space that was already there, and then
Take it-
how to
Exactly. And
yeah.
so, that was one of the more kind of like I call it a upcycling or a reclamation project where we
Yep.
take something that was a place where our parents and our parents' went to make textiles and do other type of,
Yep.
work to provide for our families, that we ultimately were able to use and not erase, right? Use some of the elements that we believe hold the memory to build on the shoulders of.
I
So
like
there
that.
was no erasure.
I
There
like
was
that.
an opportunity for us to sit in concert with them through our creative expression. So they did what they had to, so we could do what we wanted to.
So this is the first of many. So if you have any questions for Super Kev, make sure you drop those in the comments, so that we can come back and have another conversation. But I want to lightly land with something. Talk a bit about the importance of the projects that we're working on together.
And I always try to distill things down to a word: innovation.
That's true.
Innovation is one of the more dynamic concepts because it doesn't just tell where you were, it tells where you are, and it tells where you will be going ultimately.
Yeah.
It's not just a word that is concerned with what's happening right now.
Sure.
It's a word that's concerned with the
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about what we're doing here, we are not talking merely about the young people coming through and just getting to
Yeah.
have activity.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is changing not just their lives,
But the
but the
trajectory of
trajectory of their entire their lineage, their families, their
Yes.
cousins, their sisters, their aunts, all of the things.
Yes.
There becomes a cross-pollination that exists that only creative expression can do. There are not words that can allow a person to communicate in a way that the arts can.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things words just aren't qualified to do.
Mm-mm.
And so creative expression is the only way you can communicate and have a level of color commentary that unlocks people's true
There
potential.
you go.
And so what we see is, and this is what we know whenever there is some level of oppression, you can look around and find no arts and culture.
Yeah.
It's the first thing to go.
Say that again. When
It's
you
the
see
first.
impression,
It's the
it's
first thing to
because
go.
you don't see the arts. Now you understand that that is something that people don't always grip, and it is something that
Yes.
I know we advocate heavily for.
Sure.
But that oppression piece,
Yes.
that's such a critical thing. So when you wonder why someone commits a crime, someone takes their own life, so there's an oppressive component that
Sure.
they've lived in
Sure.
way too long.
Sure.
So without expressive spaces or spaces where you can express yourself creatively,
Yes.
I think it pushes people into that.
Yeah. It's like I said earlier, arts and culture is not a nice to have, but it is essential. It is paramount to the development of us
Yeah.
and the future generations.
There you go. Several generations beyond us. So I'm going to thank you all for tuning into this. We're going to put, Kevin Sherrod is phenomenal. He didn't even begin to scratch the surface of, the ways that he's contributing to the world, its betterment in people and spaces. So we're going to put that in the comments or in the description so that you can kind of read up on him, and just know he'll be back again because we have so much to do together. But is there anything that you want to leave the audience with as we sign off for now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the number one thing that I want to say is that you are the value proposition. Your ability to dream, your ability to think, your ability to love, laugh, and create. Those are paramount. There's nothing more important that you offer this world than to use your paintbrush of your expression and to paint with it. Because if we all do it, then we get a tapestry of magnificent color, of magnificent commentary, of magnificent culture. Our culture is valuable. Who we are is valuable. Who we are teaching other people to be is just as valuable through our creative expression. Don't stop dreaming.
Don't stop dreaming. And how about that? So if you liked any part of this, or like I said, if you have any questions around this, make sure you use the comments, like, share, subscribe, follow, all the things. Kevin, thank you for taking the time to
Of
be with
course.
us on Sweet Tea Time today. Just
Of
please
course.
know I'm going to suck you right back into the vortex again. You know how we get down. And for you, thank you for jumping on with us today. And I look forward to future conversations because I know sometimes we can dream, like Kevin said, we can dream, but I want you to start stretching your dreaming beyond just the things that you can house in your garage or in your house or in a box, but start thinking about the things that you can dream big, that forces you into the orbit around your box. Start to take the perspective that you're the value add. Everywhere you go, you are the value add. And make sure that you're being intentional about the fact that you refuse to not show up in this world, not bring your peace, and not be successful. It is yours, and you're supposed to do that. So we thank you for jumping on with us today. Look forward to seeing you again right back here on Sweet Tea Time.